Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to my channel. My name is Paul, the Canadian Snow. I'm back here once again with another Invicta video. Flaming pigs and anti-elephant tactics. I had no idea this was a thing. You set a pig on fire, apparently, and I guess you set him, set him at the elephant. Hopefully he freaks out, maybe, and turns around and tramples his own team, kind of thing. That is definitely my guess. Poor pigs. That's ruthless, man. But anyways, let's check it out with our anti-elephant tactics. Never really thought about that. The things they did. They must have made maybe some loud noises and whatnot. I guess. I don't know. We're gonna find out. Before you, please hit that like and subscribe button below. And let's jump into it. Doo-doo-doo. Bam! This is exciting.
War elephants were amongst the most feared battlefield units of history.
Nice.
Standing up to 3 meters tall and weighing almost 4 tons, these massive beasts were capable of unleashing massive damage on enemy formations. One must imagine the sheer terror of soldiers facing them for the first time.
Yeah.
Even
right?
veteran troops were prone to dissolve into a rout as their comrades were trampled, gored, or smashed to pieces. It was therefore imperative that generals prepare themselves for battle with the mighty war elephant. We covered them in a...
Yeah, if you're fighting one of those for the very first time, that has to be freaking terrifying. That'd be like, because you've never seen one before, and maybe you just heard stories, probably didn't think they were real. That'd be like today going on the battlefield and a dragon is waiting for you on the other side of the battlefield. Like, that'd be some freaky, crazy stuff, and it'd probably make you think twice. So, I can definitely see people getting scared. After you face them once, I'm sure you're going to find those tactics, but obviously the first time they're not going to have these tactics and whatnot. They're probably just going to, I don't know what they thought they were going to do or think. Maybe they just thought they were stories at first, but obviously after the first time, you're going to do something to kind of, figure out how to do something against these big dudes. But anyways.
Separate video, which I suggest you take a look at. In this video, we'll be covering the history of anti-elephant tactics. Today's video is sponsored by Babbel, the #1 language learning. It's helpful for me to have a resource for learning new languages quickly and reliably. Babbel is the most obvious.
I should have probably did a war elephant video before I did this one. Oh well.
Counter strategy would be to try and beat them from a distance. For much of antiquity, this would have meant using arrows and slings. Such weapons had quite long ranges, and theoretically meant that you could unleash several volleys at incoming elephants before they reach you.
Smart.
But would that be enough? Well, elephant hides are actually quite thick and do a good job of protecting vital organs, meaning that scoring a kill shot would be quite hard. On top of this, many armies would equip their war elephants with armor to make them even more resilient to incoming fire.
Yeah.
This could be anything from small, strategically placed padding to near full-body metal armor. So yeah, you would need a lot of firepower to bring one of these bad boys down.
Damn.
For example, the war elephant of the Mughal commander Akbar is said to have emerged victorious from battle with nearly 100 arrows sticking out of it. Volume of fire, however, might just do the trick, or being close enough to actually target weak points like the eyes or the driver. Alternatively, armies might decide to adopt special elephant-slaying projectiles. In India, this was often achieved by using all-iron arrows, which could cut deeply and were difficult to extract. Heavy caliber shots fired from torsion catapults like ballistas or scorpions could also be quite deadly. Ultimately, however, anti-elephant tactics did not have to kill to be successful. More often than not, simply frightening the elephants was enough to get them to retreat, or even run amok amongst their own troops.
I can see
We
that.
have numerous examples of ranged weapons being able to achieve these results in critical battles like Thapsus. Thus, I'd highly suggest this option to any commander thinking of going up against war elephants. But it was not always a guarantee for success. Let's now look at other tactics.
Okay.
This next
good.
tactic keeps to the mentality of defeating the elephants before they get in range. There have been all sorts of traps devised throughout history, and I am sure people will be posting their own in the comments below. But the main, recurring ploy we see over and over again is the use of spike traps laid on the ground. Anyone who has owned Legos knows how powerful this can be.
Yeah, that's so true. I mean, if you kind of get to choose the battlefield and kind of be able to set some spikes up before the battle, then yeah, you're golden. But if you're just if you're not really choosing a battlefield, you're just kind of getting there. Then I guess that's not much of an option. But I guess you could still do that. Have you guys rev there, throw it down, throw your Legos down real quick, and then come back. But I don't know. But yeah, stepping on Legos, man. Woo, that's some paint.
Share a couple interesting case studies. The first one took place during the siege of Megalopolis by the Macedonian general Polyperchon in 317 BC during the Second War of the Diadochi. The city walls had been breached, and the attackers were making ready to flood through the streets with a spearhead led by 65 war elephants. However, one of the defenders, called Damis, a veteran of Alexander the Great's army, proposed that they set a trap. This involved actually clearing out a path through the debris of the city to funnel the enemy in, guiding them towards concealed boards studded with nails.
Wow.
Here's what happened. Quote, "The Indian mahouts did their part in urging the elephants to rush into the city all together, but the animals, as they charged violently, encountered the spike-studded frames. Wounded in their feet by the spikes, their own weight causing the points to penetrate, they could neither go forward any further, nor turn back, because it hurt them to move. At the same time, some of the mahouts were killed by missiles of all kinds that poured upon them from the flanks. The elephants, suffering great pain because of the cloud of missiles and the nature of the wounds caused by the spikes, wheeled about through their friends and trod down many of them. Finally, the elephant that was the most valiant collapsed. Of the rest, some became completely useless, and others brought death to many on their side."
Wow.
The idea caught on, and other successor kings would begin to deploy.
That is insane, man. Oh, I feel so bad for the elephants, man. Oh man, I'm glad there's no visuals of that. Obviously not, but man, I don't think I could watch that. Dang.
Deploy their own spike traps. At the Battle of Gaza, for example, Ptolemy deployed caltrops linked together with iron chains to counter Demetrius's forces of 43 war elephants. When these charged the Egyptians, they fell upon the spikes, causing them great pain. The terrible screams of the frontline elephants panicked the rest, which now ran amok. This allowed Ptolemy to follow up with a swift assault that captured the elephants and routed the enemy army. We have references of other armies defending their fortifications or battle lines with all kinds of pits and spiky elements to ward off elephants. Back in India, these features were so common that actually most fortress gates were outfitted with spikes to repel elephant battering rams. However, these sorts of measures relied quite heavily on knowing precisely where the elephants would attack, which wasn't always a guarantee. Nonetheless, I'd rank them as one of the most effective anti-elephant tactics. Let's now move on to the next one.
I guess that's a no-brainer right there. That, if they're going to use elephants to get in, put spikes in the doors, that probably doesn't take much to do that. So, yes.
Another tactic would be the use of formations to mitigate the impact of elephants. This concept had been tested previously by Alexander the Great against the chariots of Darius at the Battle of Gaugamela, where his men opened up lanes to allow them to pass harmlessly through the lines, at which point they were set upon from the flanks. The Roman general Scipio would do the same at the Battle of Zama, when he deployed his maniples into lanes whose presence was hidden by skirmishers. When Hannibal's elephants charged, the light troops opened up the lanes, guiding the elephants through to the rear of the army, where they could more easily be finished off. This was a spectacular success, but not one to be so easily replicated. Instead, most of the historical record points towards commanders opting for other tactics. Let's continue to cover these.
That's smart.
As we have seen so far, one of the major weaknesses of the war elephants was their susceptibility to panic. Thus, another major tactic would be to get them to freak out psychologically using sights, sounds, and smells. Generally speaking, a wild elephant would freak out at most sensory experiences coming from a battlefield. However, war elephants were often trained to endure these. Thus, the trick in freaking them out was to expose them to something novel. One aspect of this was the use of extremely loud sounds. For instance, we have records of numerous battles where armies apparently yelled, blew horns, banged on drums, and created such a cacophony of noise as to repel the elephants. Yet this was not always a guarantee to work, and thus a prudent commander would ideally seek to induce fear using other senses.
I mean, that's like the easiest thing to do if you're don't have the spikes or whatnot, and you're gonna set in battle. Like, that's just the easiest first thing to turn to, because you're probably not gonna have flaming pigs and Legos to throw in front of them. So, I mean, just yell at them. I mean, I don't think the yelling would work, but I think the horn would definitely work. This would be pretty loud, 'cause I think it would be loud anyway with people. So I don't think the yelling would do much. I guess it would be pretty good if you had like thousands of people doing it at the same time. But anyways,
Fire is one such primal trigger. Armies could use torches and other flaming elements to ward away
true,
elephants.
true.
Even greater effect would be achieved if one could use flammable pitch to set alight an elephant, which would undoubtedly send the herd into a panic. But obviously, it would be hard to do this. Some commanders, however, were not dissuaded by such an obstacle and simply looked for other animals to set alight in their attempts to counter war elephants. For example, we are told that when Antigonus laid siege to the city of Megara in 266 BC, the defenders rounded up some pigs, doused them in combustible pitch, set them alight, and unleashed them on the enemy ranks.
Wow.
The flaming, squealing pigs produced such horrific sights, sounds, and smells as to panic the entire elephant corps, which bolted in terror, trampling a great number of their own soldiers to death.
Damn, it worked.
It appears that the Roman army may have also attempted to deploy this trick against the elephants of Pyrrhus at the Battle of Maleventum, although our records are spotty. They undoubtedly did play some role, as Roman coins minted during the period feature an elephant on one side and a pig on the other. Later on, in 544 AD, we are told...
Man, that'd be a great idea. You can think about that works. You win the battle, and then you got dinner. I mean, because you already got, you got cooked, you got either, cooked pig or maybe some, got some dead elephant. Man, you're just ready to go. So at least you ain't starving after the battle.
That during the Roman siege and a pig on the other. Later on, in 544 AD, we are told that during the Roman siege of Edessa, the defenders suspended a pig from the fortress walls, whose screams put Persian elephants to flight. On another occasion, the brilliant general Tamerlane is reported to have loaded his camels with wood and hay before setting these alight and sending them flying at the enemy. It too proved successful in panicking the enemy war elephants, and made for an easy victory. In my research, I also stumbled upon another interesting reference of animals being used to spook elephants.
Damn.
In 338 AD, the Sasanian king Shapur II was laying siege to the city of Nisibis when a local bishop called upon God to send a swarm of bugs at them. These, quote, filled the hollow trunks of the elephants and the ears and nostrils of the horses and other animals. Finding
Well, he called the gods to a swarm of bugs. Okay, so they didn't actually have like containers full of bugs. What? What?
of the elephants and the ears and nostrils of the horses and other animals. Finding the attack of these little creatures past endurance, they broke their bridles, unseated their riders, and threw their ranks into confusion. While obviously a fanciful tale, it does hint at the idea of people potentially using insects in warfare, which is quite fascinating. The last tactic I wanted to look at is the deployment of specialist anti-elephant units. There were likely many of these in Asian history, given the long service record of war elephants in regions like India. However, I had a hard time finding specific references to specialist forces. I urge anyone with more information to post below. With that being said, we first start to hear of anti-elephant troops in antiquity during the Wars of the Diadochi, as elephants became increasingly common in the West. Such elephantomachoi, or elephant fighters as they were called, often had spears or heavy chopping weapons to strike at exposed legs, tendons, or trunks. Additional gear might also be included, as was the case with Perseus of Macedon when he fought the Romans at Pydna. Apparently, he had his elephant fighters equipped with spiked helmets to prevent their heads from being grabbed, as well as spiked shields which could be thrown under the feet of elephants like deployable caltrops.
Smart.
Unfortunately for him, however, they don't seem to have had much of an impact in this case and were routed in battle. But the use of
I guess it's smart. But I can definitely see where they're coming. It seems like a lot of work to do all that, and like I don't know, like to have an element right there on your shield. I mean, you said unless you have like a double shield and you have like your whole legion throwing their shields out in front, that's a quick way. Getting trapped, more likely the elephant will step on it. But obviously, this doesn't seem practical. They have two shields, but yeah, I can definitely see that. I've never seen that before, so obviously could not have been too popular. It'd take more resources.
elephant soldiers was not a lost cause. We have numerous stories of troops managing to close the distance with elephants and taking them down. Arab soldiers fighting the Sassanids, for instance, learned to pick off the elephant guards before swooping in to cut the girths, holding their howdahs, leading them to topple over and make easy targets. Other times, we hear of individual soldiers in Roman, Persian, and Jewish armies, for example, battling with elephants one-on-one. The legendary Iranian king Bahram Gur even is reported to have pulled off a feat worthy of Legolas. He is said to have charged an elephant with a bow, shot it between the eyes, then grabbing its trunk to pull the beast to the ground, and finishing it off.
That's what's it called? Lord of the Rings, right? I haven't seen it. One of the shows I can't believe I haven't seen is Lord of the Rings. I keep saying I'm gonna watch it, but
with the massive sword blow that severed its head. Pretty badass. Another fascinating anti-elephant unit worth mentioning are the 300 specialized wagons deployed by the Romans against Pyrrhus at the Battle of Escalum. Here's a description by the historian Dionysius of Halicarnassus. Quote, "These wagons had upright beams on which were mounted movable traverse poles that could be swung round as quick as thought in any direction one might wish, and on the ends of the poles were either tridents or sword-like blades or scythes all of iron. Or again they had cranes that hurled down heavy grappling irons. Many of the poles had attached to them and projecting in front of the wagons fire-bearing grapnels wrapped in tow that had been liberally daubed with pitch, which men, standing on the wagons, were to set fire as soon as they came near the elephants, and then rain blows with them upon the trunks and faces of the beasts." End quote. This was quite the ingenious idea. However, Pyrrhus saw them being deployed on the wings and moved his elephants to the center while sending out skirmishers to disable the contraptions. This effectively countered.
Yeah, I guess because the elephants you think would be more agile. I'm just guessing, because if they see that coming on like the wings, if that's what elephants are, I think a lot faster to get an elephant to move into the center than it would be to get those like tank elephant thingamajiggies to the center. So, but I'm sure you can hide that kind of thing with your army in front or whatnot. I'm sure there's something you can do about that.
The counter and allowed him to win the battle. I'm sure there are a ton more anti-elephant tactics recorded in history that I haven't covered. Definitely let me know in the comments below if you know of any, or feel free to chime in with your own novel ideas. I'll be looking forward to reading these. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this episode. A huge thanks to our patrons for suggesting this topic. And
yeah, I agree. If you guys have any more info on this, yeah, definitely post in the comments below. And what do you think? Did you guys really think there was, all of you, I'm sure already kind of thought about this or kind of knew about this kind of stuff, but I never came to mind at all to think about anti-elephant stuff. And the flaming pigs, man, that's actually a thing that worked. Flaming camels, I guess you need animals to beat animals, right? I guess, So, crazy stuff. That's super interesting. I did find that super interesting, all the different kind of ways all this different stuff they came up with. So anyways, guys, please hit that like and subscribe button below. Catch you guys in future videos. Appreciate you guys watching, and hope you guys have a good day or good night or whatnot, whatever time it is for you. But yeah, peace. Catch you guys in future videos. I am out.